Welcome back to Rivas. I'm Andrew, and today I'm playing Keyforge. So last year there was a crowdfunding campaign for Keyforge for the Winds of Exchange expansion, and along with it, special decks, including the Unchained decks. And announcements just went out yesterday that some of those are starting to ship, some of those rewards. So people will be getting their Winds of Exchange and Unchained decks very soon. However, I got a couple of the decks early, one of each. And so I wanted to get a video up as soon as I could. I was sick last week and gone for work the week before that. So this is my first chance to get these decks on camera, just barely before or just as people start to get their rewards. Of course, I did back it, so I'll get more Winds of Exchange and more Unchanged decks, and I'll put those on the channel as well. But for now, let's get these decks head-to-head in action. Before I get too deep into it, take a look at Volcano here. This is a card from a deck called Radioactive Daniel of the Garden, which is not either of these decks. This card actually came in this Unchained deck here as an extra card, so like a mispackaging of the card. So if you get this deck, Radioactive Daniel of the Garden, let me know or put the owner of that deck in contact with me and we'll try to get your deck completed because I'm not going to be using this Volcano. So let's take a look at the decks I do have. This is the Wind of Exchange deck first, the Guildhead C.Y.K. Cope, and the houses in this deck are Unfathomable, Mars, and Star Alliance. This deck does not include the new house, which is Equidon, but we do have some Equidon over here, so you can take a look at the deck list if you want. So if you don't want to look at it, then don't. But I want to put this on the screen for a few seconds if you want to pause it and take a look. Is it focusing properly? Unfortunately, my overhead or my card camera is low on batteries, so either I need to play quickly or, yeah, that might be a bad thing. But forgot to charge that one. So that's the deck list there. I like to open these on camera, but I got impatient. I wanted to look through them. And this set introduces tokens. So cards can create token creatures, which are represented by the back or the top card of your deck. Just can become a token, but every deck comes with a token creature that you can use as a reference. So we're not actually going to be putting this into play, but we're going to keep it nearby as a reference. That Guildhead can create priest tokens that are from the Unfathomable house, have 2 power, and can, as an action, exhaust an enemy creature. So I'll put those over there. And the Unchained deck. So if you don't know Unchained deck, so Winds of Exchange is just like a new set. It's got a new house, it's got new cards, it's got some returning old cards, and it's a carefully crafted set with a carefully crafted algorithm. Unchained is taking all of the previously printed cards from any Keyforge set and amalgamating them into one big set where the algorithm is loosened up and the decks can be more weak, more powerful, or wild mixes of cards. The maverick ratio is much higher, so cards can appear out of their normal house and in other houses much more frequently than they would normally. And so more crazy and exciting stuff, or just dull and boring, because you could just get a bad deck, but that means still more exciting, right? It could be exciting in a bad way, or just exciting to see how bad it is. But anyway, we'll take a look at this deck. We'll try them out against each other. A fair deck, presumably, against a unfair deck, potentially. We have Rivas, Bromaveral's Dreamer, and this uses Equidon, Star Alliance, and Unfathomable. And so that's actually kind of weird. We got Star Alliance and Unfathomable in both of these decks today. It's kind of a weird coincidence, especially since Unchained is pulling from more than just the normal 7 houses that a normal set would use. It can pull from any of the houses. It also does have a token creature. I think most Unchained decks end up with a token creature, although I think they don't necessarily have to. So we'll take a look at the token first. We got a Diplomat, and this is an Equidon token, 1 power, elusive, and after it reaps, each player gains an amber. So I've heard people not really big fans of giving their opponents amber, but that's what we got. And you can see the card back is also different. This is the Unchained card back style with all the black and the white starkness compared to the normal card back card frame. So take a look at this deck list again if you want to before we get started, or just wait and see what cards come up. And yeah, you can see some interesting excitement there on the Unchained deck. You got in different categories of cards. I'm not saying it out loud in case anyone has their eyes closed. Okay, you can open your eyes now. So I'm going to have Unchained Rivas go first. So I'm going to draw 7 for the first player. And before I even look at their hand, we'll just go ahead and get started. They can only play 1 card out of those 7. And let's kick it off with Equidon. We're going to play Conductor Jaroya. I'm not going to try to do any fancy pronunciations on those fancy vowels. But it's a 5-power creature. After it reaps, we can ready a friendly buggy artifact. And spoilers, in case you didn't look at the deck, this deck does contain at least 1 buggy artifact. So we'll put that into play. Exhausted, and end the turn by readying. Player 2 gets 6 cards, and we'll be able to play normally by choosing one of the 3 houses in their deck and playing as many cards as they want from that house. And they got 3 Unfathomable and 3 Mars. So let's see. Let's lead with Mars. So we'll play Ixlix Mesmerist first. So 5-power creature. As an action, a creature captures 1 from its own side, and it has this enhanced pip to draw a card. So as soon as they play that, they get to draw 1 card, which actually is Mars. So they're also going to get to play Xanthix Harvester, which cannot be used while it has a non-Mars neighbor. So they want to make sure to surround that with Mars buddies, because the sequence of your battle line is important in Keyforge. It also has the ability after it reaps to gain an amber. And actually this is the first set in which they've actually spelled out after reap. That is new text. It's always been the case that reap effects take place after the creature finishes reaping, but now it actually says that after reap on the cards, which is nice. So we got Mix the Tall-Minded. Your opponent's keys cost +1 amber for each friendly Mars creature in play. So if player 1 for some reason tries to forge a key, they're going to have to pay a lot of extra amber. And finally, what is that? A Tixel Beambuckler, which is a 4-power creature. When played, deals 2 damage to a creature and move it to either flank, but this creature is already on both flanks, so you can take 2 damage from that effect. And this is a 4-power with an armor, so that's nice. And the Harvester has some nice Mars neighbors. The end of player 2's turn, they can ready all their cards and draw until they have 6 cards in hand, so that'll be 3 more. And player 2's got some beefy Mars creatures. I don't think player 1 has any great plays, but they're going to choose Unfathomable just to play 3 cards. So they'll start off by playing Stir Crazy. The first thing they do is get 1 amber, because that's the pip effect there. And then it says each ready creature captures an amber from its opponent. Well, that's not very good, because that would let one of these Mars creatures capture an amber. Now it is player 1's turn, so they get to choose, but I don't think they want to do that. It's actually better for them to just discard this card, because that's the other option. They chose Unfathomable, so they can either play or discard these cards or keep them. I'm wondering if they should just play something else. Might just be better to choose Star Alliance, and we'll play Diplomat Agung. When you play it, or after it fights, or after it reaps, for the remainder of the turn, a friendly creature belongs to the house of your choice in addition to its normal houses. So we'll play that. We'll choose this Conductor Jaroya to count as being a Star Alliance card, which means player 1 can use it. Go ahead and use it to reap. Any creature can be used to reap, meaning you exhaust it and claim 1 amber. This has the after reap effect of readying all our buggies, but we don't have any buggies. And we'll play Kirby's Blaster, which gives an amber when we play it. And this is a upgrade, so we attach this to one of our creatures. And I guess I should have done that before. Yeah, I guess I'll put that on the Jaroya before reaping with it, so that I can trigger that after reap ability to deal 2 damage to a creature. And that will be, I don't know, all of these are big and annoying. Maybe the Harvester, because it can give them a bunch of extra amber. This one's pretty annoying as well. I think that's the best we got. Not great. So we'll just end our turn by drawing 2 cards. Actually, plugged in the overhead camera phone to a battery pack, so hopefully we'll be good there. Player 2 has a nice Mars lineup, but they don't have any Mars cards in hand. So they can choose one of their 3 houses. They could play 3 Star Alliance cards, they could play 3 Unfathomable cards, or they could play no cards but use the 4 Mars creatures that they have in play. I think they'll go ahead and choose to play Unfathomable. And they're going to start by playing Covetous Hema. So this is a 3-power creature. While it is not on a flank, it gains elusive. When we play it, we have to play it to a flank. So we'll play it over here. What also has a play effect when you play it, capture 3. So we're going to grab 2 of the amber from player 1 because that's all I have and put it on there. Play Skullback Crab, which is just a 1 power but has poison, so any damage it deals will kill a creature it fights with. And as an action, it can steal an amber. And let's put that one over here. And then we'll play a Fathom Reaver, which says when you play it, you make a token creature. So that it's going to be a priest. But again, that priest is going to be represented by the top card of their deck. This is my first time ever making a token creature. So let's put Fathom Reaver here. It says while you control a token creature, your opponent refills their hand to 1 less card during their draw card step. So player 1 will definitely want to get rid of either the token or the Fathom Reaver or both or everything. But we'll just put them over here together, and player 2 can end their turn with 3 more cards. Again, they can't use any of the Mars creatures because they didn't choose Mars this turn. So player 1 is going to choose Equidon. They're going to reap with Conductor Jeroya, which gives them an amber. And after they reap, they can... Oh, first they need to play... Okay, hold off. Rewind. Sequencing is important. We're going to play this Shiznasi Buggy. This is an artifact that enters play exhausted, and as an, well, just like creatures, but as an action, you can lose an amber to draw 3 cards. So that's going to go down here with their artifact section. Then we can go ahead and reap, gain an amber, and after they reap, they can ready each of their friendly buggies. And they actually have a buggy this time. They can also trigger their Kirby's Blaster after they reap to deal 2 damage. And because they don't want to draw fewer cards, I think they're just going to pop this token. And this token, represented by a face-down card from the top of player 2's deck, is going into player 2's discard pile. So take a look at what it was and just put it in the discard pile. Now player 2 could look at that card. I didn't actually look at it before, but player 2 is allowed to look at it once it has been created, in case you have other decisions to make regarding what you want to do with your token creatures. For example, maybe they really needed that card and there was some way they could return a creature to their hand, then that token creature could be returned to their hand, and now that it's in their hand, it's actually the card that it is. So there's some shenanigans that could happen, but in this case, it's just gone. Now player 1 has an amber and this buggy. They're going to go ahead and exhaust this, use the action to lose an amber to draw 3 cards and hopefully get some more Equidon cards. And they got 1. It's actually another buggy. And that would be nice if they could use this again, because they can ready all of their buggies. Which, now that they're getting some buggy action, player 2 is probably thinking that this guy's going to need to go soon. But this buggy says reveal 2 cards from your hand. If they share a house, discard them both and make a token. So that can be a nice way to make tokens and clean out your hand, try to get what you want. Only 1 more Equidon card, and it is another artifact. It's not going to do much for them this turn. Unfortunately, also not a buggy. This lets them swap control of it and an enemy artifact. So this can either make the player 2 question whether they really want to play an artifact, because player 1 can just steal it basically, or they can run it out there and see what happens. That is all player 1 can do. So they'll ready their artifacts, their currency, and their conductor. And draw no cards because they already have 6. Now, if you already know Keyforge, then thank you for your patience as I explain a lot of little things. But in case you haven't been familiar with Keyforge before, you might be wondering how we win, and that is with the amber. So if a player were to start a turn with 6 amber, it would be spent to forge a key. So that's why this Mix the Tall-Minded is talking about amber or keys costing extra amber for each Mars creature. It's because normally the price is 6. We haven't really had a lot of amber action going on so far, but maybe that will change. Now player 1 can do Mars and use 4 creatures plus play a card. They get to Unfathomable and use 3 creatures and play a card. Or they can choose Star Alliance and play 4 cards. I think it might be time to get the Amber engines online, and they got 2 houses to work with. So yeah, let's do Mars. They got another Tixel Beam Buckler, which when played deals 2 damage to a creature. So they can play that, deal 2 damage to the Diplomat here. It only has 2 power, so 2 damage will kill it, sending it to discard pile. And that was their only Mars card, so no more cards to be played. But as an action, the mesmerist can make a creature capture an amber from its own side, but player 1 doesn't have any. So they'll just reap with the mesmerist and gain 1 amber. The harvester can reap for an amber. Can't be used if it has a non-Mars neighbor, but fortunately for player 2, it has 2 Mars neighbors. So they get an amber. The after reap ability says gain another amber, so they get 2 from that. This one doesn't have any actions or special abilities other in terms of reaping, so just get another amber there. And same with this first beam buckler, 1 more amber here, and all of a sudden player 2 has 5 amber, only 1 off from being able to forge a key. If they did have 6, they would be threatening to forge a key, and at the start of their next turn, that's when they would actually spend the amber and get a key, which is what these are. They're just waiting to be flipped over, aka forged. Forge 3 keys and you win. There's 2 amber on this covetous Hema, but that is actually held captive. This dies, player 1 gets it back. This amber does not belong to player 2. Player 2 will end their turn and pass back. They get to draw 1 card to fill their hand up to 6. Well, player 1 is gonna do Unfathomable. They got 5 Unfathomable cards waiting. So here we go. So first up, let's go ahead and play Stir Crazy. So first thing they have to do is get that amber from the pip. But now each ready creature captures an amber from its opponent. Oh, it only gets 1. Oh, I was thinking somehow player 2 would be punished for having all those creatures and all of that amber, but that's not how this works. Each ready creature captures 1. So Joroya would get 1. And one of those creatures would get this one. So it's not nearly as exciting, but I'm still going to do it. And we'll put 1 on the Hema. If we kill it, we get all 3 back. So we already wanted to kill that to get our 2 back. I'll play Sunk Cost. Choose a house. Your opponent discards a random card from their hand. If it belongs to that house, make a token creature. And we know that they are playing those 3 houses: Unfathomable, Mars, and Star Alliance. And we know that they haven't yet chosen Star Alliance, so of course I know what's in their hand, but I still think it is a safe and fair decision to have player 1 choose Star Alliance, because odds are their hand is filled up with Star Alliance cards they haven't played yet. So we'll roll a die. Card 1, card 6, and it has to land in the thing. 2. Card number 2 is here. Discarding Foff Transponder, which is indeed a Star Alliance card. And so that triggers the addendum here. If that card belongs to the chosen house, make a token creature. So player 1 gets a token creature represented by this face down card, and that is going to be a Diplomat, which is Equidon and elusive. And after it reaps, each player gets an amber. That is an action, so it goes to the discard pile. We'll play a Tentaclid, which is a 3-power creature with skirmish, which means when it attacks, doesn't take any damage in return. Taunt means its neighbors can't be attacked unless you have to attack the Tentaclid first, but it doesn't have the ability to reap. So we'll put that out. I don't think we need to protect the Diplomat, so I'll put it on this side. It's protecting Joroya now. And let's play this Gilt Spine Netcaster, a 2-power creature. It has enhance for 2 capture symbols, but that ability doesn't do anything right now. That ability actually applies when the decks are being built in the digital Keyforge algorithm that makes every deck unique. So those icons have already been added to cards in the deck. In fact, one of them, I believe, is on Conductor Joroya. So you can see that enhance symbol, that capture amber symbol, which I ignored when I played it because it means when you play this card, steal one of your opponent's amber and put it on one of your creatures. But player 2 didn't have any amber at the time. Player 1 played Conductor Joroya. So anyway, that's enhance, and after this creature reaps, they can exhaust an enemy creature, which is nice because creatures are ready at the end of your turn. So player 1 exhausts an enemy creature on player 1's turn. It will remain exhausted throughout player 2's subsequent turn. Finally, we've got Cassiel the Benevolent, which has enhance 3 with 1 amber and 2 capture, and it's just a 2-power 2 armor creature. We'll put that over here. And one card remaining, nothing else to do. So player 1 readies and gets to draw 5 more cards. That'll be a nice fresh start. Player 2 is kind of okay with having that card discarded. I mean, not that it's necessarily a bad card, but that's another reason to not choose Star Alliance and just stick with what they have in play already. They could do Mars, or they could do Unfathomable, but I think just doing Mars again will suit them just fine. Again, they're going to reap for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this time 6 full amber. And then they have ammonia clouds, which is an action that deals 3 damage to every creature, which they probably don't want to play, so they can just choose to discard that, and they'll actually get to end their turn by drawing 2 more cards to fill up their hand for more options next turn. So let's give them their 6 amber, and I'm not even going to exhaust them because we're just going to ready them as we end our turn, and I think that's pretty good. So now player 2 is going to say check because they do have 6 or more amber. They're threatening to forge a key, unless player 1 is able to deprive player 2 of at least 5 of the amber that they currently hold. I don't think player 1 has the ability to stop player 2 from forging, at least not with what's going on right now. So let's do some shenanigans, and let's start out by playing the visible hand. We're going to choose Equidon. It says make 2 token creatures. So let's put them all in a row over on this side, I suppose. These are both exhausted. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at them now that they're out, though. All right. Good to know. Good to know. I should also look at this one, just so I know. Okay. And I have to reveal my hand to my opponent. So player 2 gets to see these. So I'll keep that in mind as an action. So that's discarded. I'm going to reap with conduct... Or no. Well, actually, let's reap with our diplomat token. So again, this token, all 3 of these tokens are diplomats. So I'm going to reap with 1, I'm going to get an amber, and then each player gets an amber, which is pretty questionable, but here we go. And then I'm going to use my Shiznasi buggy. I'm going to lose 1 of my amber to draw 3 cards. And player 2 doesn't get to see these, so I'll keep these face down. And then I'm going to, let's play, I only have 1 more Equidon card. I'm probably not going to be able to use it. But let's use the Shiznoknu buggy. So we're going to reveal 2 cards from our hand. If they share a house, we'll discard them both and make a token. So I'm going to use that. I thought I got to draw cards from that somehow. All right, well, I got to discard 2 cards. I'm actually going to discard this fancy Star Alliance Maverick Tireless Krokag. So he's supposed to be in the house Brobnar, but he is a Maverick thanks to our Unchained deck. So I'm going to discard that, as well as a Demo Alien. And we're just going to discard these. They're both Star Alliance, so I get to do the effect of making 2 tokens. Oh, just 1 token. All right, so look at that. Put that over here. Got a lot of diplomats now. I don't know if I want to give my opponent a bunch of amber. But now let's go ahead and reap here. Get 1 amber for that. And after reaping, I get to ready both my buggies. And I get to use the blaster to deal 2. And, man, do I kill the thing? Or I can't kill it, but I put some damage on this. Or just kill the harvester, I guess. This makes them 2 amber when it reaps. And they've already used it twice, but they could keep using it. Let's get that out of the way. Now that my buggies are ready, I'm going to use this one again, lose an amber to draw 3 more cards. And then I'm going to use this buggy to discard 2 cards. I'm going to discard another Tentaclid and this sack of coins to make another token creature. I got this Equidon, or this, Equidon card, another Maverick, this time from the Saurian house. It's a dinosaur with taunt. And I can ward a friendly creature. So let's ward our buggy guy. And I'll just put this on the end of my battle line here, which is pretty crowded. These 2 cards are still revealed. We got a Zap from House Star Alliance that we're not going to be able to play this turn. And this Ecto Charge. It's got a fancy lightning symbol. This is what's called an anomaly. Presumably it is from a future set, but it's somehow in this current set. I can forge a key at 26 cost. Instead of the normal 6, it's plus 20. But that 26 gets reduced by 1 for every card in my discard pile to a minimum of 6. But I only have 8. So I still have to pay 18 amber to forge a key. And these key cheats can be nice because normally you forge a key at the start of your turn and your opponent can see it coming and they can try to interact with you and take away some of your amber. Cards like this let you forge immediately before your opponent can respond, because in Keyforge you don't do anything on your opponent's turn. But I don't have anywhere near enough amber. So the question is, do I even play it or do I hold it for some possible future scenario? But I think I just have to play it. We're going to play it and get 1 amber. And just, we can't forge a key, so this just goes to the discard pile. But if we run through our deck, we can shuffle our discard pile back in, so there's still the potential we could redraw it later and use it. We'll end our turn by drawing one more card. Unfortunately, that's all we can do. Our opponent still knows about the zap, but everything else got drawn after we revealed it. So we'll ready all of this. Got 5 diplomats. Those diplomats definitely didn't do anything to stop player 2 from forging a key, so at the start of their turn, they will spend 6 amber and flip the first one over. 3 of them to win. And it's boring, but they might just keep doing the same thing. I mean, well, the harvester's gone, but they can still reap for 4. Or they can reap for 3. Or this actually just has an action to steal 1, which is even better. And then they can play this Azure Basin Outpost, which is an artifact, so it'd potentially let player 1 steal it. But I think that's... that's a good question. I think for the sake of making things more fun and interesting, I'm going to go ahead and have player 2 choose that. They've already got 5 amber, so they're going to play this. They should probably discard it. They should probably discard it. But I'm going to say they're throwing player 2 or player 1 a bone here by playing it instead. They do get an amber out of it. And if player 1 doesn't steal it with their swap effect, then it will definitely benefit player 2 to have this artifact in play. So make things a little bit more interesting. If I were feeling safe and boring, I would discard it. Reap with this for 1 amber. Reap with this for 1 amber. And this one actually has the action there at the bottom. It says action steal 1. So we'll just exhaust this to use the action. And instead of getting 1 from the pool, we'll get 1 from our opponent's pool. Again, player 2 is going to end with more than enough amber to forge a key, putting player 1 again a precarious situation, and draw 1 to refill. All right, player 1 is going to choose Star Alliance. So let's clump up all these diplomats into a smaller little pile here and make some room for some more creatures. I'm going to start with Commander Dirkskar. Not enough vowels in this particular name here. 4 power. After an upgrade is attached to him or one of his neighbors, gain 1 amber. Then I'm going to play Light of the Archons, I guess. This creature gets +1 power and armor for each of its upgrades, which is going to be 1. We get an amber for playing this. I'm going to attach that to Tricerian Legionary, which makes it a 6/2, very beefy. But because it is next to Commander Dirkskar, I get an amber for putting an attachment on it. I'm going to play Comm Officer Kirby. It says after, or whenever I play, fight, or reap with him, I can play a non-Star Alliance artifact, upgrade, or action this turn. Don't know if I'm going to be doing that, but I can. We'll see though, because I'm then going to play Diplomat Aigung. There's 2 power. After we play fight or reap, we can choose a friendly creature to belong to the house of our choice, and that is going to be the Conductor Jeroya. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to use our buggies. The Officer Kirby lets us play a card that doesn't match Star Alliance, but doesn't let us use one we already have in play. So I'm not going to be able to use a buggy or their uncommon currency. I'm just going to reap with Jeroya, get an amber for reaping. Triggers after reap ability to ready our buggies, but they're ready. And then we trigger Kirby's Blaster, which I've just been using it to deal 2 damage. But what it says is you can deal 2 damage or attach it to Officer Kirby. Well, I now have Officer Kirby in play, so I'm going to attach it to him. It says after I do that, I get to draw 2 cards. And because I'm putting an upgrade on a creature that is adjacent to Dirkskar, I'm also going to get an amber for that. So let's do that and draw 2 cards and maybe get to do even more stuff. Well, this might backfire quite a bit, but I'm gonna play Zap. Deal a damage to a creature for each house represented among creatures, which I believe is 5. We've got Unfathomable, Mars, Equidon, Star Alliance. Oh nope, just 4 because we have 2 overlapping houses. So just 4, but that's fine actually. So we'll kill this. It doesn't actually matter because I just played that for the amber. Did I get the amber? I don't think I got the amber. I'm gonna take it anyway because I'm pretty sure player 1's gonna lose. But we're gonna play Mass Buyout. So let's see, who was it? Column offer Sir Kirby says I get to play non-Star Alliance artifact upgrade or action. I didn't have one, but I drew one, and I got this mass buyout. Destroy each creature. Each player gains amber equal to half the number of creatures they controlled that were destroyed. Round it up. So let's do some math. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And this is actually not being destroyed because of the ward that was put on it. So player 1 has 6 creatures destroyed, which means they're going to get, or 12 creatures destroyed, which means they get 6 amber. All these tokens are headed to the discard pile as well. All of a sudden they find themselves with 12 amber. However, they're a key behind already, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Player 2 gets 3 more amber for their destroyed creatures, which means they have a full 2 keys worth of amber and only 2 keys required to win. So this being destroyed means this 3 comes back to player 1. So player 1's got even more amber. But yeah, that was a big mass buyout, and we'll see how that works out for player 1 who decided to play it. And they'll end their turn by drawing up to 6. Player 2 will start their turn by spending 6 amber, and even if they didn't want to forge a key, they have to. So they spend the 6 and forge a key. May as well go for Star Alliance this turn. They've been holding on to these cards, so this should be ready. And yeah, Star Alliance it is. So let's start with Hapless Cadet. If it's destroyed, your opponent loses 3 amber and has taunt, so the neighbors are going to be a little bit safer. And its neighbors, I guess, will be CPO Zytar, which is a 4 power, 1 armor with Enhance again. Enhance already took effect, doesn't help them now. And then we'll play CR Officer Hawkins, who has the deploy ability, which means it actually does have the ability to kind of interrupt the flow of your battle line. If I wanted, I could split them up, which you normally can't do. Normally you have to go right or left, but deploy means I could jump him into the middle, which means he could benefit from that play ability to gain 1 for each of his non-Star Alliance neighbors. However, it's all Star Alliance here, so we'll just throw him on the end and we won't worry about getting any amber. And then we'll play a Photon Blast that does 2 damage to a creature and 1 to each of its neighbors. And if it destroyed a creature, they get a token. Not going to do that. We're just going to do 2 damage. And the buggy guy still has 1 health remaining off his 5 power. And that was it for the Photon Blast. That was it for Star Alliance for player 2. They will draw 4 cards, but they still have 6 amber. So if player 1 doesn't have any way to deny player 2 some of that amber, the game will be over at the start of player 2's next turn. Fortunately for player 1, they do have the ability to deny a bit of amber. So they're going to start their turn by forging a key, 6 amber to get their first key. They still have a key and a half's worth of amber all lined up and ready to go. The Shuffling Gods were extremely rude this game though, because we're going to go ahead and play Omnipus. So first thing is to resolve that pip. That's a capture pip, which means we take 1 of our opponent's amber and put it on 1 of our creatures. Now player 2 is not going to be able to forge. We're safe. Unless we give them amber, which if we had diplomats out, we could do. But we're not. We'll be smart. Probably. When we play it, we discard the top 8 cards of our deck. Oh, we get to discard it first. So we discard the top card of our deck. I was going to say, we got our last card here is a 3rd Tentaclid. This deck has 3 cards called Tentaclid, which is relevant because we're now going to play each Tentaclid from our discard pile. So I was thinking I would only get the 2 that were already in the discard pile, but we actually get to discard that 1 last card first and bring out the Tentaclid. So again, Tentaclid has Taunt, Skirmish, and Can't Reap, 3 power. Omnipus will be on our battle line first, though, so we'll figure out where to put that. After Omnipus reaps, we gain an amber for each friendly Tentaclid. So let's put this out. And where do we want to put them? Because they do have Taunt. So let's taunt both of our friends here. Oh, that's not one. Put 1 there. And I think I'll double up on the Omnipus side. Sure. And I actually forget in Keyforge if I'm meant to shuffle my discard back into my deck as soon as my deck is empty, or if I need to draw a card. I'm going to say this when I need to draw a card. Could be wrong. All right, so I'm putting these forward because they have Taunt. I chose Unfathomable, so I've got 2 more Unfathomable cards I can play. One is the very sad and depressed Sobog's Thingamabob, and it's going to give us an amber, so that part's nice. But as an item, artifact, we're not going to it's going to enter exhausted, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't have an action. After our opponent forges the key, we exhaust each of their creatures, which would be nice, except for our opponent also currently has the ability that after they forge the key, they win the game. So we don't want to have to use this ability, but I'll still play it for that amber. And I'm also going to play this action Dragnet, which has 3 pips on it. 1 is an amber pip and 2 capture. So we get to grab 2 of our opponent's amber and put it among our creatures. I'm going to put 1 here and 1 here because this one's not protecting anybody currently. And I like to spread them out. So if they're able to destroy Omnipus, for example, I don't want them to get 2 out of it. And this guy's close to dead anyway, so I don't want to put any more on this than I have to. So we're going to do that. And then I get to actually do the effect, return a creature and each neighbor that shares a house with it to their owner's hand. So I'll return this creature and each of its neighbors, which are also Star Alliance, all go back. And suddenly player 1 doesn't seem to be in such a bad spot. They're going to end their turn by readying everything and reshuffling in order to draw 3 more cards. Player 2 does not get to forge a key. They have a nice big hand to work with. Just caught something that I missed last turn. Woo! Could be pretty different. I'm gonna fix it as well as I can, and that is this CR Officer Hawkins that I was like, oh, he doesn't do anything. He actually has a damage pip enhanced onto him, which means when player 2 played him, they should have been able to deal 1 damage. Player 1 had this creature in play, so they should have been able to hit it for 1 damage and kill it. Which means when player 2 played Omnipus, there was no creature for player 1 to capture onto. Which means this amber should still be here. This amber should have been returned. And this creature should be dead. So that changes the board state a bit. They still got to capture 2 after that and get those, although this should be shuffled back in. So there was a chance player 1 could have drawn it at the end of their turn, but I'm not going to mess with that. So I think that properly fixes it. Player 1 is going to go ahead and use, or 2 is going to use Star Alliance. They're going to play this again, which means they get to deal a damage again. And I guess we'll put it on the tentaclid that's captured some amber. We're going to play CPO Zytar again, just a 4 with 1 armor. Hapless Cadet, taunt. If it's destroyed, our opponent loses 3 amber. It wasn't destroyed though, it was returned to hand. And we'll play Pyro. We play him as a creature? I think so. We're not going to be able to use it. It has the ability that it can be an upgrade that gives it Splash Attack 3 ability to the creature that it's upgrading. I think it's just fine to just have it as an extra creature. That still leaves player 2 with 5 cards in hand, and so they're just going to get to draw 1. And I wonder if they should have done Unfathomable, because they get this amber. But then they don't get to draw any cards, and they won't have anything in play. No, I think they're gonna stick with this. Draw 1. Player 1 will forge a key. Second key. Next key wins it. Player 1 has the dreaded 2/2/2 hand, where they have 2 cards of each of their 3 houses. Their biggest move would be to choose Unfathomable, because they also get to use the Tentaclids. Or rather, the Omnipus is the big draw, because it can reap for 4 amber. They only need 1. Although we don't know how much our opponent's going to steal or block from us. And then our Tentaclids can't reap, so they would have to attack. And if they attack the Cadet, we lose 3 amber, which isn't ideal. And these cards are not too exciting for Unfathomable. Possibly more thrilling turn would be to play Equidon. So let's do it. I'm going to start by using this buggy to lose 1 amber to draw 3 cards. I'm going to use this buggy to reveal and discard 2 cards in order to make a token creature. And let's see what that is. I'm going to play a Shingzusu. Oh, this is an artifact, so we're not going to be able to use this turn. This is our 3rd buggy. Ooh, so we can't actually use this one, but that's okay, I think. No, it's not okay, because I was going to use that for my 6th amber. Nah, I can still get my 6th amber. All right. I'm going to go ahead and use the uncommon currency. This is swap control of an uncommon currency and an enemy artifact. So we're going to use this. Action means we have to exhaust it, and then we get to swap control. And now we have Azure Basin Outpost on our side, and we actually have House Unfathomable as one of our 3 houses. So in order to use the Azure Basin Outpost, I need to choose Unfathomable, whereas for our opponent, in order to use this artifact and swap back, they have to choose House Equidon and Equidon is not one of their 3 houses, so it'd be a very awkward turn for them. Then I will play my Tricerian Legionary again. So he's got Taunt, and he's going to give something Ward. Taunt, actually, yeah, I guess I'll have him Taunt for the Diplomat, and we'll have Omnipus become Warded. And I will also play a Talent Scout, which gives us 2 Amber when I play it, 1 built-in and 1 enhanced. So we do have our 6, so we can threaten the victory here. We can call check as we end our turn, and the ability on Talent Scout is it can be used as any house, and when we play it, we look at our opponent's hand and play a creature. Oh, and then our opponent takes the Talent Scout, and again, it can be used as any house. All right, so they're going to get this, and we get a creature from their hand. And I'm going to choose this Kaup. Your opponent can't play more than 1 card of each type. So our opponent can play an artifact, creature, action, and an upgrade, but not more than 1 of any of those. And again, I've gotten an Unfathomable card, which I can use on my Unfathomable turns. I've given my opponent an Equidon card. Well, it can be used as any house, so never mind. They can use that no matter what house they call. But still got to weed a card out of their hand and pick the one that's going to hopefully hurt them the most. And that's it. We've got our 6. We're calling check. Our opponent only has 5 still. So let's see. But the Talent Scout is exhausted. So even though they could use it for any house, it is exhausted. And so is the currency. Until player 2 ends their turn. So you got to play this turn with just 5 cards. They need to ideally gain Amber to threaten their 3rd key, and also at least take away 1 Amber from the opponent. The player 2 is going to have to choose Star Alliance. So here we go. They have to choose Star Alliance because their only way to take player 1 off the Amber is to have Hapless Cadet die. So they're going to start out by attacking with Pyro. It has Splash Attack 3, so when it attacks its target plus the neighbors. We're going to attack the Tentaclid. So we're going to do the 3 damage here, plus to both of these. Omnipus is warded, so it takes no damage. The Diplomat will be killed because it's only a 1 power creature. Tentaclid is killed and deals its 3 damage in return to Pyro, so Pyro also dies. The battle line closes up. Hapless Cadet will attack this Tentaclid here, and they both die. When Hapless Cadet dies, opponent loses 3, so boom, game will continue. We're going to reap here and here, I think. We could kill this Tentaclid. You know what? Sure. Let's have this attack here instead. Or maybe have this attack. It's got an armor, so instead of taking 3, it only takes 2 damage. It's 4 power. We'll deal 4 to the Tentaclid and kill it, which means this captured Amber returns. Another Tentaclid off the board, and then Officer Hawkins can reap for a 7th Amber. And then, oh, we got one more Star Alliance card in hand. Specialist Guthrak. He has Skirmish. When he attacks, he takes no damage. And after he fights or reaps, he captures an Amber for each house represented among him and his neighbors. So we'll put him next to the Equidon guy. And their turn with 4. Draw 2 more. And it is a close game again. Player 1's going to choose Unfathomable. And let's play Call of the Void. We're going to get an Amber for playing it. And we can exhaust a creature. If it was already exhausted, destroy it, and its controller loses 1. Ooh. I just realized we have to take 2 Amber away, or we lose. Well, I don't actually know if they can do that. So let's retract this Call of the Void. Yeah, I think player 1's in a pickle here. We got 3 Unfathomable, 3 Star Alliance, and nothing that will take away Amber. So they have to rely on the buggies. It's down to the buggies. The Shinziasi buggy, we're going to lose an Amber to draw 3 cards. We're choosing House Equidon, so we got to draw House Equidon cards and hope that we get there. We got some nice ones. I don't know if they're going to do it. Let's give it a shot. We're going to reveal 2 cards. If they share a house, we will make a token. We'll reveal Scout Pete and Zap. Discard those to make a token. Take a look at it. We're going to destroy a friendly creature to get 2 Amber. So we'll destroy our Diplomat and get 2 Amber up to 4. Can play Conductor Jeroya. If only I can use in this turn. I could ready all my friendly buggies. He does have a Capture Pip, so we're going to grab the 7th Amber, unfortunately. And do we put it on the Omnipus or maybe the Legionary? It's nice and big at 5 with an armor. And finally, we have the Ecto Charge. Gain an amber for a total of 5. And if we can pay 26, we get a key. 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17. With a low price of 17 amber, we could get a key, but we've only got 5. So Ecto Charge goes to the discard pile. We pass the turn. Player 1 gets to precisely and exactly spend 6 amber to forge their 3rd key. That was pretty down to the wire. We got to play with Omnipus. We got to see Ecto Charge get played for single amber. Twice, player 1 cycled through their deck. We rashed the board and gave everybody multiple keys worth of amber in their queues. That was a pretty epic game. We got a bunch of artifacts. We got a lot of buggy on buggy action. Buggied, unbuggied. So there you go. Very exciting. Some Unchained stuff going on. Some chained but solidly straightforward stuff going on. Looking forward to more Unchained decks and more Winds of Exchange. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and bye.